Throughout the first half of the 20th century, Jews in the Soviet Empire had felt much persecution from their government. It would be in the 1960s that the Soviet Jewry movement would be created, with the goal of allowing the emigration of Jews out of the Iron Curtain that was the Soviet Empire. Many at that time would refer to the Jewish population of the USSR as part free and part slave, and activists throughout the world would fight hard against the USSR's treatment of the Jewish population and the government's constant denial of visas, allowing Jews to settle in Israel and beyond. The outspoken Jews living in the USSR at that time were thrown in prison for backing such ideas of Jewish freedom of movement. Charges like anti-Soviet slander would be brought against anyone who dares speak out against the USSR. By the late 1960s, after over a decade of activists trying to garner global awareness, the issue would be brought upon the world stage when the topic was raised at the United Nations General Assembly. This would lead to further anti-Semitic Soviet propaganda, but things would soon be looking up for many of the Soviet Jews hoping to emigrate out. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, between 1968 and 1973, almost all Soviet Jewish emigres resettled in Israel. It would begin in '68, with Soviet authorities allowing a small segment of the Jewish population to emigrate to Israel in order to reunify with family members. In 1971, 400 Soviet Jews would arrive in the United States. In '73, 2,000 would arrive. And in 1974, another 4,000. From 1975 to 1976, it's said that the large majority of Soviet Jews had favored settling in the United States, many settling in Brooklyn's neighborhood of Brighton Beach, which would soon become known as Little Odessa, which name derives from the port city which lies on the Black Sea in southern Ukraine. While much of the Jewish population were well-intentioned families looking to start over and work hard to assimilate in their newfound homes, it would soon become clear that the Soviets were not only able to rid their land of much of its Jewish presence, but also be rid themselves of a dangerous criminal element, which would soon touch down on the shores of America. One in particular, coming over along with over 5,000 Soviet Jews in 1975. A man who would soon be given the title of the first Russian Don of Brighton Beach, Evsei Borisovich Agron. Posing as a jeweler, Evsei Agron would touch down in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. He would get to start over, as if his criminal career was wiped from the history books, long forgotten. But like many of the criminals the KGB gladly sent over to the United States, Evsei Agron didn't forget. Evsei Agron was born to a Jewish family in 1930s Russia, at a time when Joseph Stalin was preparing for the Great Purge. The Great Purge would eliminate anyone who dissented from the government or was even suspected of being subversive. Hundreds of thousands of people would be executed, and millions more sent to gulags, which were treacherous forced labor camps. Many more would die in these camps. Agron's family managed to make it through the tumultuous era, but Evsei would ultimately fall into a life of crime. Not much is known on the full extent of his entry into a life of crime, but as a young man, he would serve 7 years in a Russian prison camp for murder. There, he would gain the status as a vor. The vori v zakon, which translates to thieves-in-law, or thieves professing the code, was a Russian organized crime syndicate birthed out of the Russian labor camps, much like gangs such as the Aryan Brotherhood that were birthed out of the U.S. prison system. Upon release, he would flee to Germany and establish a lucrative prostitution and gambling ring. In the 2000 book Red Mafia by Robert Friedman, it states that around this time, Evsei Agron would lose his status as a vor for not paying his debts. But all had been behind him now, and his criminal record sealed by the time he entered the United States in 1975. Evsei Agron would establish a vicious extortion racket and rain hell upon the Russian inhabitants of Brighton Beach. He would shake down just about anyone who he saw as vulnerable, and those that didn't comply would be killed, or subject to Evsei's favorite weapon of torture, an electric cattle prod. He did this with a crew of henchmen who were just as brutal as him. Men like brothers Benjamin and Boris Neifeld, and Emil Puzuretsky, who was another murderer and alumni of the Russian prison camps. Emil Puzuretsky, who was said to be covered in colorful tattoos, would get the reputation of the most feared Russian enforcer on the streets of Brighton Beach. There would also be Murat Balagula, a well-educated man with a great business sense, who would become much beloved by his community and opened the very successful Odessa restaurant on Brighton Beach Ave in the early 1980s. He would serve as Evsei's consigliere. In 1978, Evsei would recruit Manya Elson into his crew, who came to the USA and got started in credit card scams, insurance fraud, jewel theft, and extortion. He claimed to have murdered 100 men, and his wife Marina would often join him in his violent escapades. While much of the Italian mob in New York City at that time had rules against going after family members, such as children and wives, the Russians, on the other hand, used the threat of violence against family members to their advantage. In one incident, Evsei Agron would even threaten to kill a man's daughter on her wedding day if he did not pay up the money Agron asked for. It was this ruthlessness and predation against vulnerable Russian emigres who were new to America that kept Evsei afloat. Evsei Agron would run his operations out of an office at the El Caribe Country Club in Mill Bays in Brooklyn. The El Caribe serves as a catering hall and wedding venue. It's owned by Morton Levine and family. Morton Levine is the uncle of former Trump attorney Michael Cohen, who once had a stake in the business himself. Evsei would soon expand his friendships outside the Russian enclave of Brighton Beach. He would make connections with the NYC Crime family through a man by the name of Murray Wilson. The Bronx-born Murray Wilson was quite the shadowy figure, with a career intertwined between the Russian mob and the Italian mob. His early beginnings are said to be in the Garment District of Manhattan, but he would become known as an expert money launderer who maintained stakes in supermarket chains and restaurants. Murray Wilson would also traffic in diamonds and any other lucrative schemes he could mastermind. He was even manager to former Israeli pro boxer Jewry Foreman. Murray, a staunch supporter of Israel and some of the militant movements that grew out of the Soviet Jewry movement, aided in the settling of the Russian emigre into Brighton Beach. He would take note of some of the dangerous elements like Evsei Agron and soon align with them. Murray's go-to guy in the NYC Crime family was the powerful Venaro Benieggs Mangano, a lifelong friend of Vincent the Chin Gigante, and at that time a capo. Through this connection, Evsei's crew would get heavily involved in truck hijackings, jewelry thefts, and even stock market manipulation, which would leave the Italian mob highly impressed with Evsei Agron. In 1983, Evsei Agron, along with Murray Wilson, would mastermind a plan to defraud the Dunes Hotel in Las Vegas for $1 million. Another mastermind of the scheme and key ally of Agron was a man by the name of Ronald Greenwald, a powerful, politically connected Orthodox Jewish rabbi who claims to have met Agron during Agron's criminal career in West Germany. At one time, Greenwald was a powerful Jewish voice in America. He even served as Richard Nixon's main liaison to the Jewish community, helping Nixon grab 36% of the Jewish vote when he was re-elected in 1972. He would then be appointed positions at various government agencies, where he would represent the interests of those in the Jewish community who were impoverished and in need of government assistance. He was heavily involved in New York City Jewish politics and even served as an NYPD liaison at one time. Greenwald would soon get into some hot water operating employment scams, but ultimately his charges would be dropped. As far as his relationship with Agron, it's been claimed that Greenwald helped Evsei get his visa to enter the USA in 1975. But Greenwald had always denied this. However, Greenwald did not deny that Evsei Agron would often visit him at the Manhattan office of his commodities firm. The Dunes Hotel scam, which netted over $1 million, was said to have been hatched in Greenwald's office, with Greenwald partaking in the plans, which he obviously denied. Murray Wilson would arrange for Agron and his men to be supplied with numerous lines of credit, but they would never use the credit. They would give their chips to Wilson, who would cash them out, and the lines of credit were never paid back. At that time, the Dunes Hotel was ran by Morris Shanker, a former attorney of Jimmy Hoffa and a man who was heavily connected to the Teamsters. He was one-time controller, along with Hoffa, in the Central United States Teamsters Pension Fund, which they used to invest in casino properties. Much like the fraudster sent by Murray Wilson to the dunes, Morris Shanker was also of Russian Jewish descent. Now, I hope this incredibly strange web of characters hasn't melted your brain yet. I can only say that it's a lot deeper than I will attempt to portray here, and I'm sure there are many things about this incredibly powerful and shadowy figures that we will never know. At the end of this video, please head over to the description for some useful links if you would like to investigate further into this strange realm. But for now, let's get into the downfall of Brighton Beach's first Russian Don, the vicious extortionist who preyed upon the Russian citizenry in Brighton Beach, Evsei Agron. The first attempt to be rid of Brighton Beach's Evsei Agron would occur in early 1980, when he was shot in the stomach on a Brooklyn boardwalk. He would survive, but would lose part of his lower intestine. He wasn't exactly sure who did it, but he vowed to find out. Being as ruthless as Evsei was, I'm sure the possibilities were endless. In January of 1984, Agron would be shot again. While walking out of a garage at his residence at 100 Ocean Parkway, Agron would be shot in the face and neck. He would almost die this time, but doctors managed to save him. However, part of his face would be paralyzed from the damage. He vowed once more to find out. In his mind, the shooting came from a rival Russian gang, who were making a name for themselves on the streets of Brooklyn and beyond. The gang was headed by Boris Goldberg, a fellow Soviet Jew and one-time Israeli army soldier. Boris, an owner of a Brooklyn amusement park called Rainbow Amusements, was a drug trafficker who also surrounded himself with a violent crew of gangsters. Brighton Beach is only so big, and it was only a matter of time before more Russian gangs would grow and oppose one another. Evsei would summon Goldberg to meet him at the El Caribe in order to have a talk about this incident. Goldberg would arrive with his men, and things would get heated when Evsei demanded to see the shoes of all of Goldberg's men in attendance. You see, the only thing that Evsei remembered were the type of shoes the assailants had on. Unfortunately for Evsei, he did not recognize any of them. Boris Goldberg and his right-hand man Charlie Rivera would deny being involved. The meeting would end without violence, but this wouldn't be the last time Evsei would be on the wrong side of the gun. Saturday, May 4th, 1985. Inside the apartment building at 100 Ocean Parkway in Kensington, Brooklyn, Evsei Agron is getting ready to partake in one of his favorite pastimes, visiting the Russian and Turkish bathhouses on Lower Manhattan. His driver, Boris Neifeld, arrives outside the apartment in his black Lincoln town car. Evsei Agron exits his sixth-floor apartment and makes his way to the elevator, when all of a sudden, he's ambushed. A man wearing a tracksuit and sunglasses shoots Evsei Agron, who crumbles to the hallway floor and lies dead in a pool of blood. The man would get away, and Boris Neifeld would soon leave the scene. Well, it's not known exactly who got rid of Evsei Agron. A new Russian Godfather would stake his claim to the streets of Brighton Beach. Marat Balagula, who would be joined by Boris Neifeld and other members of Evsei's old crew. It is believed that Boris Neifeld and the likes of Marat Balagula were involved in beridding the world of Evsei Agron, Brighton Beach's first Russian Godfather. If you'd like to learn more about Marat Balagula, you could check out my upload, Anthony Gaspipe Casso Hits Vladimir Reznikov, The Gas Scam, on location in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. But for now, let's head over to the apartment at 100 Ocean Parkway and Brighton Beach, Brooklyn, and check it out. Beautiful Sunday morning here in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. See the boardwalk. You see these cool little apartment buildings here. Very styling. And down that way there, you'll keep going. You'll hit Coney Island. the cyclone, the wonder wheel, all that good stuff. Beautiful day. So let's see. Let's pop a little squat on this bench over here. Get a view of the beach and the Atlantic Ocean and have a quick little chat before we get to the streets. Okay, so as we discussed in the video segment here, before the scene locations that we are at now, we discussed the history of the Soviet Jews coming into the United States, specifically this area of Brighton Beach. And we talked about Evsei Agron-The, the first Russian godfather of Brighton Beach. And I gotta be honest with you, this is one of those stories that while doing it, you know, I kept finding myself being pretty upset. Pretty upset. Good morning, sir. Upset because, you know, you have these guys that, you know, they went through the same shit that a lot of the immigrants that came here went through, whether it be life in the gulag or life under persecution. And, you know, they came here just looking for something better. And, you know, luckily for them, you know, many of them gained their refugee status and they were able to come here. But soon they would find themselves being extorted by people from their homeland. And, you know, these people come here, as I said, looking for something better. They don't know the land. I mean, they know a little bit about the United States, but it's like, you know, they have to come here and, you know, set up shop and try to be successful and, you know, make a good life. But many of those plans were thwarted by these criminals. And kind of just made me upset, made me a little sad that, you know, these criminals that went through the same shit that many of these people went through would, you know, wreak havoc on their fellow citizenry, you know, basically inflicting much of the same pains that were felt when they came over from the USSR. All right, let's cross over. A lot of foot traffic, a lot of people heading to the beach over here to relax in the sun. And they don't really like being filmed, so, I mean, I could imagine they don't. So let's head over there where you see the elevated train station, and we will get a little up close to the community of Brighton Beach, the Russian enclave here in Brooklyn. And I gotta tell you, man, parking, shit. Took me forever to find parking. I probably just could have like took a train here and got here quicker, but it was all right. It's quite the commodity. I don't know what it is. I always get these cats in my videos. What do you think we should name him? Boris? So I don't want to talk loud and mention some of these guys' names and stuff. You don't know what's going on here still to this day. You don't know how many people were around back then and they may be hurt by these folks. So, you know, you don't really want to, you know, I will watch what I say. I guess you could put it that way. Whether that's being dramatic or not, I don't know. But anyway, here we go. Let's get into it. We're going to get deep into it right here. All right. Very busy Sunday morning. So, just getting a feel for the neighborhood here. Big Bear. Now you'll start seeing some of the Cyrillic writing on a lot of the stores here, like this one here. Got a Georgian restaurant, some Georgian food right here. All right, so I did not really want to speak so much because it was incredibly loud over there and there was a lot of people. But yeah, you guys got a feel of how busy it can be over there here in Brighton Beach. So let's walk down some of these side streets and we'll have another conversation. So as mentioned in the program before this, you know, a lot of the Soviet Jews that came here, they settled here in Brighton Beach. And they're still here till today. It is a stronghold for that community. And at the time, in the mid-70s, early 70s to the mid-70s and beyond, when all the people from the USSR, the Jewish population, came here, they started opening up, you know, their own businesses, you know, restaurants, bars, construction, all types of stuff. And, you know, like we mentioned, they started getting extorted by these people. People like Evsei Agron. But like many things, these guys' reigns didn't last. It was forever changing. You had Agron, you had enemies like Goldberg, who I discussed, and you had later Balagula, and you know, he didn't keep on forever, and you have all this turnover, and even today you don't exactly know what the hell's going on here. I don't want to know. I don't talk about current stuff. Not that I don't care, I just, you know, think it's better for me that I don't. And yeah, and what a strange story, guys. I mean, you know, you have Murray Wilson and Rabbi Greenwald and this whole strange web of characters. It's almost not real in a sense. It's just like, what the fuck is going on? And you know, you always need, you know, when you have these people, you know, and it's, when you look at it, it's kind of obvious. When you have these people that come here from foreign lands and all of a sudden they got all this power, I mean, you would have to think that there's something greater behind it, you know? Because even for characters like Agron, I mean, obviously it takes a certain type of person to start doing what he does, but to come into a new land and to do that, I mean, there had to be some, you know, greater incentive, some greater thing propping him up. And through this story, you know, I found out that there in fact was. And of course, aligning with the Genoveses and all that other stuff. Let's go down here. We're over on Coney Island Avenue. And let's get another peek there. We just basically wrapped around. And I was here before, you know, on Brighton Beach Ave up there for the video I did on Resnikov where he was killed. But this time I kind of went to the other side here just to get another different perspective of the neighborhood. We're approaching Brighton 10th Street. Let's go to the corner. I'm gonna check out that place over there, and I think we'll end this, and we will get over to 100 Ocean Parkway. Marron. It's probably Marin, but it's fun to say Marron. All right, so let's get a look over there because we got this this cool little shop over here. Some more of that Cyrillic. All right, so how cool is that, huh? Black Sea Bookstore. That's awesome. And of course, as I mentioned, this area referred to as Little Odessa, after the Ukrainian port city on the Black Sea. So Black Sea Bookstore, very fitting name. Now let's cross over and not get killed. Black Sea Bookstore. Very cool. All right, so let's start heading out of here, get to our next location. All right, right now we are in, I believe, the Kensington section of Brooklyn. And I'm going to show you some of this architecture here. How cool is that? I mean, at least I think it's cool. Look at all these classic. Some more over here. Classic New York City. You know, this, I guess, you know, this would be an old neighborhood. A lot of Kensington still has a lot of Jewish families, but of course in the 20th century, you know, early, mid, had a lot of Jewish immigrants, and a lot of other immigrants from all over the world would settle in these neighborhoods. But now it's like, I don't know. I work in an advertising firm in Midtown Manhattan, you know, something like that, you know. Not to sound a certain kind of way. But yeah, it's definitely been gentrified in a sense of who lives here. Not so much that they would have to like take down the buildings and build up, because this architecture has pretty much remained the same for, man, at least 100 years or more. I mean, I'm pretty sure these buildings have stayed this way. But right now we're heading to 100 Ocean Parkway. And we're heading to 100 Ocean Parkway because that was the residence of Evsei Agron. Let's get a look at some more of these buildings. So cool. So this is a bit of ways away from Brighton Beach. So definitely was not living in the immediate area where he was doing his dirty work. Don't shit where you eat, I guess. Yeah, I mean, on a day like today, Sunday morning, I mean, it's at least a 20-25 minute ride for me from Brighton Beach. So we're on the other side over here. We got an old house over there. Let's give a look down here. Look at these like tree-lined streets. I love it. So cool. We're not gonna walk down this block, but we'll just take a look. All right, let's not get killed. Good morning to Mother Mary. All right, so as mentioned in the video and before, the first time that Agron gets shot, it's going to be in a boardwalk in 1980. Now, they say that is the Coney Island boardwalk, which is interesting because there's like boardwalks in Brighton Beach. You know, you think they would have got them over there. Not that Brighton is far from Coney Island, but they do have their own little, you know, immediate beach area there. That's the Prospect Expressway right there. So as I mentioned, the first time that he gets shot was on the boardwalk. Now the second time, this is going to be in January of 1984. Now to the left here is the building of 100 Ocean Parkway. Now in the book Red Mafia, it talks about Agron coming out of a little slanted driveway from this apartment complex. And that's where he is shot, in the face and neck. So let's cross over to this building here. And we're gonna look at this driveway because I scoped it out. This is the only one here. So let's check it out. So right here is the entrance to the garage of 100 Ocean Parkway, and we see this little ramp down here. Fuck it, let's walk down this ramp. So he probably would have parked here or came out of a car. Then he would have been walking up this driveway here when he was ambushed, shot in the face and neck. Now, we spoke about the meeting that was had with Boris Goldberg and his cronies. And I believe it's assumed that Goldberg and his right-hand man Rivera were responsible for this. They had a whole drama over at the El Caribe. A bunch of guys came there. Evsei was like, let me see your boots, because that's the only thing he remembered was, you know, the assailant's shoes. And even outside the El Caribe, there was a bunch of Boris's men and Agron's men, and things almost got heated. Bunch of guns, bunch of shit going on. Let's go take a look down here at the expressway. Give you guys a little glimpse. Now on May 4th, 1985, Agron is preparing to leave his apartment here. And Nayfeld is waiting out here in a black Lincoln town car outside 100 Ocean Parkway. So with Nayfeld parked over here in his black Lincoln town car, waiting to take Agron to downtown Manhattan, to the Russian Turkish bathhouses, Agron would exit his 6th floor apartment, make his way to the elevator, when he would be ambushed and shot to death and left bleeding out on the 6th floor of this apartment building at 100 Ocean Parkway, which is known as the Kensington. And that would be the end for Evsei Agron. Now, many believe that Boris Nayfeld, who was waiting outside here in his Lincoln Town car, was responsible for this, along with Murat Balagula, since they directly benefited from this. And as soon as this happens, well, Nayfeld makes his way over to Murat Balagula, and he becomes his main man, or at least one of them. And Murat is a very interesting character. I spoke about him a little bit in the video I did where Vladimir Reznikov gets hit outside the Odessa restaurant in Brighton Beach by Joey Testa and Anthony Center when Balagula goes to gas pipe to complain. We won't get in much into that right now, but you can go check that video out. We talk a little bit about Balagula there. So this is it right here. Above the Prospect Expressway, where Evsei Agron, the first Russian Don of Brighton Beach, would lose his life. Now in the photos, there's like this old school like black and white tile floor in this apartment. I wonder if it's still there. I mean, I'm not going to try to get in. I don't want to start any drama, but I do wonder. This is real classy, you know, it's old school. Sometimes they keep that stuff. But yeah, right here, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get a look up top. And this building connects to, it's a pretty big property. It's like a big chunk of this corner here. Let's get one more look down the block there. Alrighty, there you go. Kind of tight over there, so you really can't see the whole front of the building, but I think you guys get the idea. 100 Ocean Parkway, former residence of the Russian Don Evsei Agron, the brutal extortionist who rained hell upon the new inhabitants of Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. All right, I think that's going to end it. I hope everybody enjoyed this upload. You know, as I said, it's a strange one, a lot of characters, and to be honest with you, Didn't really scratch the surface, but you know, sometimes with these videos you got to stay on topic and not stray too far away, and kind of just keep it to the main character. And that's what I try to do. But there will be the links in the description, as I mentioned, and you guys can check those out. I highly suggest you doing so, and if this is a rabbit hole that you have interest in going down, please email me. Any video that I do, you want sources, you want court documents, you want newspaper articles, you want anything, email me. I will give them to you. I have no problems with that, okay? So you guys have a beautiful week coming up, and thanks as always for your support.